So February is Black History Month, and each Sunday we will see a video just like the one we saw featuring significant contributors by African Americans to our own spiritual movement centers for spiritual living. Now these videos were created by the Dallas Center for Spiritual Living, and as you heard in the announcements, our Wednesday evening services all month at 7 p.m. are going to be celebrating and dedicated to Black History Month as well. Our topic for the whole month, for the whole center, is integrity. And our personal affirmation for the month is this, and I invite you to read it with me. I am truthful in facts and motives. In other words, we are bringing things out into the open, like our history of our own movement struggling with segregation and discrimination, while teaching at the same time a teaching of oneness and unity. How could that be? Well, something was blocking us, and it wasn't God. Isn't that the case? Something is blocking us today, and it isn't the divine. Something blocks us from our good, and we've got to figure that out. Last week I left you with a cliffhanger. And we were talking about the blocks, the everything that comes up when we put our mind to something good. For example, I say, I want to be more spiritual. I want to be more loving. I want to be more inclusive. I want to stand for oneness. And then everything that is unlike spirituality, oneness, kindness, inclusivity comes into focus to be dealt with. You don't like that either. So what I want to say to you today is that is the good news. That is the good news, and that is exactly how God works through us, by creating in us such a hunger for the good that we want, that hunger leads us directly and straight to the whatever it is that must be dealt with for the greater yet to be the good we desire to be manifested. You don't like that either. Science of mind is all about that, all about a realization is what we call it. Remember cartoons with the little stick figures with the light bulb going on when the person has a realization? Yeah, that's what it's about. Oh! The light goes on in our mind when we realize, oh, I can't have exclusion while I exclude people. Oh, I can't claim to be spiritual when I won't deal with my anger issues, my honesty issues, my integrity issues, loving kindness issues, or whatever they are that are not being dealt with. Oh, I can't claim equality but avoid having decent conversations with people I hate. Oh, I could be a better advocate for oneness when I admit to and walk up to the blind spots that are preventing me from being all of that. The approach of science of mind is to think about divinity in a special way. Well, it was special and new to me, not so much as an external power that I grew up with, but more like a creative intelligence that exists everywhere. And one of the names we use for the divine is creative mind. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote about it like this in Love and Law. Writing directly to you and me, he writes, I want you to think of yourself as in this mind. Don't think of this mind as being in you. Rather, think of yourself as a center in it. Oh, that was a game changer for me. That's a consciousness changer for me. It changed from God up there like a puppeteer that I have to reach and appease, a change to my mind is a center of activity within the creative mind of the divine. So when I think about something, when I proclaim something, when I claim something, when I say I stand for something, then the creative power of the divine goes to work through me to create in me a hunger for that thing and to bring into my awareness everything that prevents that something from being demonstrated. You don't like that either. But it's the good news. That's the good news I was talking about last week, although it doesn't always feel like good news when it's being worked out. Now, a story I tell often, because it made such an impact on me when I was growing up in Science of Mind, a story about when I worked for a nonprofit organization as an intern that was running into financial tough times, and the director of the nonprofit asked all of the interns to pray for prosperity, abundance, which we did with glee. And then the next week, it turned out there was discovered that her husband was embezzling money from the nonprofit. And we were devastated because we thought, what happened to our prayers? We were focused on abundance. And she was so good. She said, don't you see? That was exactly the block that had to be brought into the light for us to embody the prosperity that we were claiming. Oh, I've never forgot that. So what I am saying is that now you and I can be sure that when you experience such things as agitation, irritation, indignation, righteousness, that something is being brought to you by the power and the grace of creative mind God, because you have in your heart a high, holy vision, and to get to it, you must go through whatever it is. And to do so, you've got to be accurate and truthful with yourself, and you've got to be willing to look into the darkness before that light can come on. Bing! I mean, what did we think would happen when we as a movement said, we stand for diversity? When we said, we stand for inclusivity? When we said, we stand for transformation and personal evolution? When we said, we value accountability and open communication? When we said, we value love and compassion and caring? You see, these are the values in our spiritual organizations, Centers for Spiritual Living. What did we think would happen when we said yes to these? Well, I'll tell you what. The creative mind went to work on us and created a hunger in us, a hunger that feels like a disturbance because something is blocking us from our good, and it is not God. You don't like that also. No worries. I'll tell you something you might like. I have a favorite T-shirt. Don't you? You know, one that you wash so many times. Yeah. Well, this is mine. I hope you can see it. I will read it to you. It says, "Don't make me hangry." You know, isn't that wonderful? A combination of hungry and angry. And when I wear this, people just chuckle. Oh, they love that. They say to me, I understand. I get that, they say. Because if I don't eat, I get irritable. And it's all I can think of. Well, that's exactly what creative mind does. It makes us hungry. And when we don't eat, we get irritated. So we can say today, I have a hunger for something good, and I am not going to be okay until I have it. Yeah. And I guess what we have to eat is called the truth. And we can't get to the truth if we are not honest and accurate with ourselves and with our history and with our politicians and with the good we say we want and the plans we make to get to that good and the conversations we have in the secret places of our own hearts. We have to be accurate and honest. So we started last week honoring Black History Month. We began to explore something that it is possible may be getting in the way of our demonstrating oneness for all. We started to talk last week about the subtle block of privilege. And this week we're going to have a deeper look at that because we are hungry for inclusivity and oneness and compassion. Now, in the anchor book for this whole year, 365 Science of Mind, I was reading tomorrow's entry. I don't know why I was reading ahead, but I was. And there's such good stuff in here. It says, let your consciousness rise above the sense of separation from the power of God. And in a few minutes, you will feel as though you were sitting in the midst of an infinite sea of unobstructed life. This place in mind where you are now is the source of all action and the center of all creativity. And just as a plant turns to the sun, your thoughts turn to the power and draw it down through your being, causing it to manifest through your word. And in this act, you're not losing your identity. You are more intensely self-conscious than ever before. And whatever you decree, state, or affirm from this altitude of thought will produce definite results. That's the part I want us to focus on. Whatever you decree, state, or affirm from this altitude of thought. Your altitude of thought, it means high up there. Not low down thought in the dirt of discrimination and separateness. High up there, it means the realization, acceptance of our oneness with creative mind, which is an altitude that you and I must practice, seek out, invite, nurture, contemplate. And from that altitude, we reveal the blocks that get in the way of our greater yet to be. So, to you who have been practicing for a very long time, to you who have been contemplating oneness for a very long time, if you have been saying, yes, I value inclusivity and compassion and equality, I've got something to say to you. Thanks a lot. This hunger is your doing. Just as a plant turns to the sun, your thoughts have been drawing down the power of transformation, and now together we are hungrier, and we won't be happy until oneness and equality and decency is served up. Now today, we're going to watch a video about that, a video by Dr. Robin DiAngelo, and it's a video specifically about white privilege. And this video will start directly after the choir finishes the song during the offering. Now, if the video stirs things up for you, means you're hungry. And if you start to feel that hunger gnawing at you, if you start to feel hangry, it's okay. We're in this together. In fact, the members of the diversity discussion group are outside in the social hall with Dr. DiAngelo's book to just hear you if you've got something to say or ask. And not only that, they invite you to come back at 1:30 p.m. to join their diversity discussion group. Now, before we go to the offering and that video, I just want to turn your attention to Howard Thurman's book, For the Inward Journey, which is recommended for this month because it is truly lovely. Did you know that Howard Thurman met Mahatma Gandhi? And he, through that meeting, was exposed to the teaching of nonviolence, ahimsa, and he brought that teaching in his own words. He brought it alive in the United States, influencing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And do you know that there is a new documentary? It's Backs Against the Wall, the Howard Thurman story that is being produced right now. It's coming out in February, the end of February, by public television. And it documents how Howard Thurman met Mahatma Gandhi, who at the time was leading a nonviolent struggle of independence from British rule. And that's how he started articulating and bringing the teaching to America. Now, he addresses in this book how the negative forces of fear, deception, and hatred are forms of violence that can be used to entrap the oppressed. And he invites us not to become apathetic about it, not to just bemoan the fate of a society, but through love and willingness and engagement to allow something to be ignited in us that turns on a light that inspires us to take an action for the good of this world. He says he always hoped, that centers, mosques, churches, ashrams would be places where people engaged in social activism would be supported and encouraged and inspired to do the good that love inside of them wanted to do. Now, after the service today, prayer practitioners will be available to offer you spiritual support. If you'd like one-on-one confidential prayer, you can go to our Grinton Chapel, where you will be lovingly welcomed. They will be there as usual. And now I invite you to take a moment with me to breathe in and to exhale, closing your eyes. As we each, in our own way, turn to that presence we call creative mind, the divine, one self-existent cause that is in and through all creation, above and below, inside, outside, in the seen and the unseen. Forever and ever it has been so, and even now it is so. And so I identify myself with this mind. I accept that I exist within it, as does every person, as does all life. And so from this altitude, I declare and decree that I am open and willing to walk up to and understand what is blocking my good. With humility and willingness, I decree and declare that there is a good for me and for you, and we ought to have it. And so, I let myself be drawn forward with ease into the transforming of my own mind through spiritual truth. I let myself feed on the love of the universe. This fills me with a celebration and a readiness. It fills me and opens me up, and I can feel it in me, manifesting as a type of vibrant life, as a holy healthiness, as an energy of engagement, and I am glad that it is so. And so I understand that all of this is taking place within creative mind. I call that creative mind the spiritual law of the universe also, to remind me that there is no effort in this, that mine is only to go where goodness leads. And together we say, and so it is.
Here's a little-known Black history science of mind fact. Meet Sarah Flowers, a prolific African-American writer of science of mind books in the 1940s. Flowers was a writer, publisher, metaphysician, frequent speaker, and teacher of the science of mind. She took the major course at the Institute of Religious Science in Los Angeles in 1937 and wrote her first book, Common Sense and Its Application in Everyday Life, in 1941. Other books followed, including The Metaphysical Thesaurus and Metaphysical Dictionary, Should I Pay for Metaphysical Treatment, and Atomic Metaphysics, The Electrical Principle of Man. In Atomic Metaphysics, she writes, "In metaphysics, we must then recognize that there is a power that revolves in and around, out and beyond us, at a rate equal to the atomic energy in our material beings." But it's important to note what Sarah Flowers considered her most important work: teaching practitioners metaphysical treatment for all of the problems that confront us today. You might think Science of Mind's inclusive teachings of oneness would be immune to America's history of racial segregation, but that was not the case. Dr. J. Arthur Twine founded Eastside Church of Religious Science in his home in 1932. The congregation quickly grew and became the third church to be ordained and chartered by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. It was a thriving, multiracial church, but in 1945, Third Church of Religious Science, as it was now called, was moved to the bottom of the church listings in Science of Mind magazine and noted as a colored church. Ernest Holmes found this unacceptable and went to speak to church members. He said, "I have been told that too many non-Caucasians attend these lectures. True, there are Caucasians and non-Caucasians in this congregation, but this we must affirm. We are all children of one living God, one God that permeates all without exception, one intelligence that governs all, and most important, every man and woman who abides in the universe is a significant entity in the one universal consciousness. Our doors will forever be open to all. Whoever you are, be proud. You are a divine idea in the mind of God." The magazine staff immediately corrected this error and returned to listing churches alphabetically. The following year, Dr. Twine made his transition, but the church remains strong today as Third Church Center for Spiritual Living. A number of Dr. Twine's descendants became practitioners, lay leaders, and ministers, including his great-granddaughter, Reverend Stacy Hilton, who currently serves as co-spiritual director of the Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living. Dr. J. Arthur Twine and Sarah Flowers, Black evolutionaries in Science of Mind.